All right, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the Dunk Talk, episode 27. My name is Dylan Haugen, 5'11", 16-year-old dunker from Minnesota. And today we have a pretty stacked lineup to talk about what we talked about previous episode. We were just talking about how dunking can become more of a sport. And last episode, we did it with Hunter and Donovan, which they'll obviously introduce themselves in a second. But today we also have three other guests. So, yeah, just go down the line.
Hey guys, I'm Hunter Castona, 6'1" dunker from Wisconsin, co-host here. And like he said, we have four other guests, three new ones and one pretty regular person here now. So Donovan, if you want to introduce yourself, and then we can get out to the new guys here.
What's up, guys? I'm Donovan Hawkins, 6'4" dunker, and I am on the show again.
Way to go, Donnie.
All right, Billy, go for it.
I'm Billy Doran, Dunkademics. Not really a dunker anymore, but I like to film dunks.
Billy's still a dunker. He's still a dunker at heart.
I'm still a dunker in here. Yeah.
All right,
All
go
right,
for it, CJ.
I got it. What's up, guys? CJ Champion, pro dunker, 6 foot. And also, honestly, most importantly, I just want to say congrats, Dylan, for your dunk contest win.
Oh yeah.
Thank you, man.
That was
Very
awesome.
cool.
The fade is looking really good too. Keep that up. Looks
For sure,
great.
for sure.
That's
All
my
right,
intro.
All right, see you, Justin.
Yeah, Justin Barber. Kind of like Billy, but I'm gonna say I'm a 5'10" former dunker, maybe former. I don't know if that's the right word. Technical committee of the World Dunk Association, and yeah, I don't know what else you need from me.
I just want to say, for those who don't know, Justin was like, I mean, Dylan does a lot of the lower rim crazy stuff right now, and like Dom and stuff like that. But Justin was like the original, like low rim guy, like who was just like inventing all these crazy dunks on low rims and getting posted on YouTube, and everybody would watch his low rim dunks. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm not
It's
gonna lie. I
funny. You
haven't.
remember when it went viral, like in back in the day, like 06, 07, it was you'd get like 100,000 views, and that was like,
Yeah.
it's crazy. And now it's just amazing to see what we've come to
Yeah.
as a sport.
Yeah, I have not actually seen a lot of those. I need to go check them out for sure. But yeah, obviously, me and Hunter have met all these guys, and we know all of them, and they're all very smart people when it comes to dunking. So after last episode, we obviously got to quite a bit, but we thought that we left quite a bit of stuff like unanswered and didn't really come to a conclusion on a lot. So we obviously wanted to bring in a lot of these guys who have been around dunking a lot, and then CJ and Justin are also very involved with the WDA, which, if you guys do not know, is like the main objective scoring system that dunk community is working on right now. So obviously wanted to bring them on and talk more about that. So just to kind of recap the last episode, we were obviously talking about dunking being in the Olympics. That's the main thing. We brought up women, like women in dunking, what we can do to grow that, and then mostly just scoring system. So we talked about kind of like the 1 through 10 scoring system, how it's being used currently, how it can improve if we do continue with that, but then obviously the SRS and objective scoring system as well. So, yeah, I mean, just kind of starting off with a pretty basic question, like what are your guys' thoughts on dunking being in the Olympics and just what can be done to get there?
That's a big question.
Yeah.
I think there is a giant list of things that need to be checked off before we can get dunking to the Olympics. And obviously, yeah, women is one thing. And another thing would be kind of like what FIBA is doing. I think we need to have more standardized contests that are happening around the world and build a bigger fan base around dunking. And that's one big thing. Now, in terms of the checklist, I don't know if anyone's gone through it. I know having chats with Dunk Elite, for example, and FIBA, they don't feel like it's something that will happen within the next few years, maybe in the next 10 to 20 years, potentially, is what I heard. But I don't know if anybody
Yeah.
has insight on that.
I don't think it would be 2028. Like there's no way 2028. But yeah, it's something like so one of the main ones is the sport should be widely practiced by men in at least 75 countries and 4 continents. So like there has to be some sort of like there has to be, you know, oversight committee, and then there has to be like 75 countries who actually participate in dunking. So like CJ said, we need to have more events or contests in each separate country and somehow have oversight over all of those, and then also include women. And yeah, I mean the rest of the stuff is pretty self-explanatory, like having rules and stuff like that. But yeah, having like a committee and then having 75 countries who actually participate. So like finding dunkers in 75 countries isn't hard, but like having people who actually want to compete in dunking in 75 different countries and like keeping track of that, that's the hard part, I would say.
Oh, I think the hard part is creating the event itself and then getting people to come to whatever that event is. I feel
Funding
like,
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like dunking needs to be picked up by like Red Bull or something big, and they're just willing to just chuck money out and then get
Yeah.
contests happening.
Yeah, I agree for sure. That's one thing that we discussed a lot is it's like dunking, like you find it everywhere on social media. It's becoming really big. But again, it's just not practiced by like a ton of people. And because of that, there's just not a ton of money in it, which makes it hard to kind of organize a bunch of events. So that's one thing that we said quite a bit. We also talked about getting girls into it, obviously, and we kind of talked about how we've kind of seen it. So I know Justin actually told me that he like has a little bit of information on like what girls could possibly do in dunking, which we like kind of talked about a little bit last episode with Donovan, but I would love to hear kind of what he had to say about that.
Yeah, you guys touched on it really well. I thought. I think it was Donovan who said his dad was did some calculations while watching the Olympics, and he used like the 100 meters, I think. But if you take the long jump, triple jump, high jump, and you take like the male max, like max record, and then the female max record, they all come out. The female is about 85% of the male in all three of those sports, which it also was, I think he said about 83 or something in sprinting. And so it's really interesting. And when we look at it, like we try to approach like how do you pick a basket height really for females because it's like Isaiah and Jordan dunking on 12, right? Or Donovan dunking on 12. The 10 foot for them is just at this point it's just higher than like human anatomy will permit them to dunk beyond just like your
Exactly.
basic dunks. I mean, to be frank. And so I like the all the calculations we've done, like different ways to approach it, and it's hard because there's not standing reach data available for everybody. Like I think I asked your girl on Insta, and you told me in the comment there, just because we just don't have that much data on females, and then let alone like the nature of females that would be inclined to be in dunking any as well. It might not conduce towards taller. I don't know, like be
Yeah.
it WNBA, it may not be the same like set of athletes or type of athletes, but all the calculations we do come out to about 8 feet, 8'6", somewhere in there as a basket height, and that seems to kind of I like we've looked at a couple different ways, like I said, and it always comes out to about 8'2" or 7'9" or something like that. However you want to kind of parse
Yeah.
numbers and estimate values and stuff.
So you'd say like 8 feet is what they'd be dunking on, is that what you're saying?
Sorry, yeah, my bad. I don't know if I said that,
Sheesh.
and I
Yeah,
think that
that's
that's
crazy.
I think it's also makes sense because what if you go around at least around the Midwest and South where I'm from, y'all could speak to. I know Billy's on the West Coast, y'all are in the Minnesota, or yeah, you're in Minnesota there, but like
Yep.
8 foot is pretty common to be around, and so it's accessible too, like in terms of like people who may not have access to a court at home or a hoop at home, like it's still accessible at parks and things. So I think that's another reason to lean towards encouraging females towards 8. And then I always do want to say, like, there's been that talk over the years about lowering the rim in the WNBA, and it's just like that's one of those things. And you guys touched on this. I don't remember who it was in the last episode, but dunking is, the most efficient way to score points in basketball, but it's not basketball per se. It's dunking, and the height of the rim, you know, doesn't have to be 10 feet just because it is in basketball. So that's kind of where I'm at on it.
Can I fill in real quick?
Yeah, go for
Uh,
it.
something that will help, and I know this is an old topic as you guys talked about last time, but just a fun thought that Andy had for dunk camp. Now, obviously, let's say Vert Trainer blows up, dunk camp gets a ton of funds, and then they decide, okay, cool, let's make dunk contests a thing in every single state, and then we start hosting dunk contests. One way that Andy was thinking he'd do this at camp as well. He was thinking we need to just have like open invites for females to come in and do the contest. So if we're at dunk camp next year, it might be a thing where it's like, okay, literally anybody in the city, all the girls can just come and they can come for free and then do the contest, do an 8-foot contest. And that's just one way to get eyes on. I think the last time when we had dunk camp in Texas, Dallas, Texas, we had 2 really good jumpers there. And I'm pretty sure whatever they did, they were up on like what, Sports Center, maybe ESPN, and then all over Overtime and who knows what else. I think that got a lot of eyes. So maybe it's going to start with dunk camp. Maybe that's the way we get a lot more eyes as on girls dunking as soon as possible. And then yes, accessibility is another thing that's hard to do. That's
I think
other. Go ahead.
lower rim dunking in general, I think is one of the keys to growing dunking as a sport. First of all, that's how most of us got into dunking, was starting on a low rim, and then you gradually build up to 10 feet. But then just like, posting cool low rim dunks and just making it like acceptable to dunk on low rims. And then that can, like Dylan dunks with his girlfriend, Brooke, and she's into lower rim dunks. And so like if it gets more acceptable for everybody, then that'll just have more participation in dunking. And just like, because one of the things that makes it hard to build a dunking fan base is that not a lot of people can do it. But
Yeah.
if you lower the rim and just like people are able to participate without being on the level of the pro guys, but still being able to participate, at least in some capacity, really helps the sport a lot.
Yeah, one thing I was talking about last episode is that a lot of these girls are so focused on their sport now that they don't really want to take time out to focus on dunking or even try at that, because they're so comfortable with either basketball, volleyball, track, or any other sport that they're trying. So, um, it's just I think it's just they're almost not scared, but it's like also it's not known enough, obviously, like we said. But we just it just needs to be more normal for girls to just be trying it, because obviously Brooke was able to get into it just because Dylan was so big into the community, and just she saw a bunch of it and she's like, you know what, why don't I try it? And then obviously she's been tearing it up on the Lormans and doing new dunks every single week and stuff like that. So if we can just somehow like what CJ said about the dunk camp thing, like just invite the girls to dunk camp or whatever it may be, just to get them more interested and actually show them that it can be fun for anyone on any rim height, then I think that's going to be a really good spot for us to um like get the sport to be like more up to par than what we want it to be. But
Yeah.
I think it's just the girls are just not scared, but just they just are so focused on their sport, because we all know
Yeah.
how much dunking means to us and how hard we work at it and how many days it takes out of the week just for us to have sessions and stuff like that. So it does take a lot of time out of everything else that you want to do. But again, that's if you want to train like the hardest possible. So, um, but, but yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah.
now's the time to get into it if you're a girl, because it's
Yeah.
not a very popular thing right now. And so like if you're in track like Kelly and Vic, then you've got a lot of competition. And so even if you're really good, like you're still not going to be, one of the top people. But if you're like close to the top, then go over to dunking and you'll be the only one there. And
Yeah.
that's what part of why like Kelly and Vic saw so much like viral fame from the dunk stuff is because like no other girls are doing that right now. So
Yeah. I will say like I'd say like when Brooke started doing it, it wasn't like this makes me excited, but also a little bit worried. Like she she wasn't just like instantly into it, like, oh, I'll just start doing this because he's doing it. It was more like, she just saw me improve and like doing all this, and she would like try it out like every now and then, like I'm saying like once a month, and then slowly, as she did it more, that's kind of how she got more into it. So I mean, that's really the hard part is like a lot of them just don't try, or they just try once. So I feel like, if well, definitely if she didn't meet me, she would 1000% have not gotten into it, because there's kind of this narrative that like it's not possible for a lot of girls, and that's just obviously not true. I mean, Brooke is just an average woman, and she can, grab the rim, and she's only been doing it for like a few months. So I think it's really just, again, like kind of pushing out like more girls dunking, as in like video wise on social media, and that can
Yeah.
kind of show them that it's possible, because again, a lot of them just don't even consider it an option for them. So
Mind if I switch things up here?
go for it. Yeah.
So I think a big thing to really push the sport forward is something that the World Dunk Association is trying to do. I feel like we need some sort of government system like the NBA, but some sort of like federation, right? And if we have some big governing body that can actually create opportunities for contests to happen, and let's say it just starts in the United States, because, well, I think it should start here because all the countries outside of the US are killing us with contests. They have the best contests if you go to Europe. That's where it's at. That's where the money's at for dunk contests as well. Um, I think if like WDA blew up and somehow it was being funded, I feel like that's where things can start to really happen. And how could we make some sort of federation like that where we all come together and say, okay, this is the thing, this is the sport under World Dunk Association. How would we do that?
Yeah,
it's a tall
it's crazy.
task. I mean, I guess you have to start small and start a local contest and then branch out. I mean, the hardest part is obviously like the funding, the funding aspect of it.
It's the funding, yeah.
Yeah.
I do think
Hmm.
kind of like what he said though, like local contests, like you could just host like, you know, sign up yourself, do a contest. I mean, it's basically no money required if you do it in a certain way. Like I went to my first contest was literally just at a park, and they didn't even have like judges. It was just like cheer the loudest for who you like the most. So I'm not saying that that's like the best thing, but kind of like you can discover more like people, like underground talents like that, and then just kind of get some
Actually,
content, I guess.
CJ, you might have already answered your own question um, by a video that you did a couple days ago
Hmm.
where you scored Travis. Uh, who was he dunking against again?
And
Oh, Finn. Yeah. So let's, since funding is the most difficult thing about it, because you need a venue, you need to fly the dunkers out, whatever. If you just hosted online contests to start off, where you have two dunkers from Italy or wherever, and they're going up against each other. And it sucks because you wouldn't be able to do it live or whatever, but just send in your dunks. It has to be from one session in a 2 hour span or whatever. And you get a winner, and that's the contest. Maybe you don't get a prize, you just get a pat on the back or whatever, or a post on WDA for now, while there's no money. But then that's how you get the different countries involved. So you get, all you need is 2 dunkers from each country each week or whatever, like, and just have them submit the dunks and you score them. And then eventually, if that kind of gets bigger, then you can like actually host events where you do that. But
Imagine that. I like that. I haven't even thought about grabbing people from overseas, but that's something. I think
Yeah.
anything WDA related and judging and scoring, as I think it's starting to pick up a little bit. I feel like Isaiah is on top of it now. Well, we had to talk about it. But with that said, too, I'm actually curious, Justin, where is the WDA at the moment? Where are we at?
We are,
Oh, he's speaking to someone. Well, I don't know. Do I need to explain to viewers maybe what the World Dunk Association is?
Yeah, you might
Or
as
is
well.
that okay? Well, you know what? I might not even explain it that well, but from what I remember, it used to be a website that had like the Dunk Encyclopedia. At least I think it did, and it also had dunker profiles, and it had dunkers in like each city, so you could
Yeah, the
find.
map.
Yeah, yeah. And then obviously on top of that, we have our objective scoring system, which is still being worked on. And I think maybe most people understand, okay, simple rating system and then complexity. If you have questions about it, then you can go look up my YouTube channel. But yeah, I'm curious. I'm asking Justin where we're at. Like, if is the website still up? Do we have any plans? It's hard to make plans, obviously, when there's no
right.
funding and it's all just purely like this is just what you like to do in your free time sort of thing. But maybe as dunkers, like all of us here, maybe this is what we need to be doing and using our power to or our following to try and build up something like the World Dunk Association potentially. Or I don't know. I think that's kind of what we'd have to go towards to make some sort of progress with seeing this as a sport.
Yeah, so as far as I know, the website is still live. I was supposed to take over it from Damien, who helped. He and Kador kind of launched with one other person whose name escapes me right now. They launched the WDA website during COVID. I think it was launched in June 2020. That's about when I joined, and I didn't realize it was Kador at first, and then because I saw some of the things that they did, and I felt like they're going to run into some of the pitfalls of a more standardized scoring system that I'd kind of encountered in the research that we've done. And so I reached out to them, and then we had been working with them, and Jinwell joined about that same time, June 2020, and COVID was COVID, and we finally did it like the first contest at the 2022 dunk camp. We did all the contests there, and then 2023, and then now 24, both the ones last year and both the ones this year, with mostly with CJ this year. Kind of riding. We were just riding shotgun there, but the goal with the website was to have like all of any dunk that you post on there, and a way to like catalog it so you could find dunks, and then also for when you'd hit for the idea of having like competition. So if you hit a new dunk and you're going to do it in the competition, you could upload it privately, and that way judges could see, okay, they could really hit it. Like we know what this dunk means, or this set of tags mean. If you go on the website, it kind of organizes everything, different features or concepts of dunking by tags, and so that was kind of where Damien was going. And Damien, like, he's a brilliant dude, computer programmer, author, amongst other things. But he had other interests that came about. Life happens, and he wasn't able to go to the next steps in that regard. And I was going to take over the website last year from him, and that didn't happen. I'm pretty sure it's still active. I haven't been there in probably 4 months or so. Uh,
So
so yeah, yeah,
I feel like something like the WDA or the WDA itself should be the international governing body of dunking. And I feel like we should be coming up with all sorts of different proposals And I want to say proposals that are something like, okay, here's how a dunk contest should look. Here's the rules and regulations. Here is how you can make it so anybody can be a judge. And then just like send a whole entire proposal out to just anybody and everybody. Red Bull, Coke, Xbox, who knows, whatever. And then just see if it ever starts biting. We have a lot of connections. The pro dunkers like Isaiah, Donovan, you're probably getting an insane amount of connections now. Jordan Kilgannon now with his potential new shoe coming out. I feel like if we were able to kind of come together, if we had a proposal and we start just sending it out to even events that we're about to do, if there's big time events, like I'm sure there's a lot of money that goes into that XBA contest in China with Dan and Isaiah and Jordan and Jay Clark. I feel like there's a lot of money in there. And yeah, if we were to send out proposals early enough and it's like, hey, can we try this? And then just see what see whatever they say, and then it would be easy for people like me and Justin to judge even back at home on our computers watching the live stream.
Yeah, for sure. I know you talked about like growing it too, and I think a huge part of that is like you said, like a lot of dunkers have a lot of connections, and I don't think that a lot of us are, using that to grow the sport. So obviously, like everyone in this call, you probably have like, I don't even know, Billy's kind of carrying us, but a lot of followers. And like if you look at dunking in general, like dunking has a lot of followers, but then again, it just is not, very formal yet. So I think again, kind of just like pushing all that out and like getting everyone to kind of make content for the WDA basically is going to be huge. Like content is going to be a huge thing in growing the
One of the
WDA.
hardest. Oh, Donovan wants to say something.
No, I was just saying, I think CJ should be our representative.
But yeah,
The face.
It's the
one of the
first thing he
hardest
says.
parts is that there are so few dunkers at the top, like at the very top, who like sponsors would actually want to do anything with. And it gets to be really tricky. And dunkers have egos. When there's like a tier list of like how much you get paid for events and like what sponsors are willing to like do something with you. And then there's only so many sponsors who want to get in the space, and then you don't want to share that sponsor with somebody else, and then like everything just gets tricky. But yeah, I mean, definitely like one of the main things is just like there's so few dunkers who are at that level of sponsorship at this point in time. That makes it really tough.
All right, Justin, WDA, let's just randomly accumulate a ton of money and then we do everything ourselves.
Yeah,
That's
definitely
actually the
thought
key.
about
You need
that.
somebody who's super rich, who just loves dunking and just willing to
Where is that person?
invest it
I
all.
love that proposal, CJ. Love that.
Yeah.
There's got to be some billionaire kid that wants to get into low rim dunking eventually.
What I'm
Yeah.
saying.
It's got to happen.
I've always thought that like if we could like repackage the dunk contest in like, I don't want to say more professional, but like in a way that's not so discreet. Like it's great having everybody's eyes on one competitor, especially in the final round, but like sometimes there's so much space and time for audiences, and like I don't know if there's just another way to do things. I don't like we've operated, and you guys touched on this in the last episode when you're talking about the scoring system and the contest formatting in general. It's been the same since that halftime show in 1976, right? That's when the sport was essentially born, for lack of a better word. And so it's like it was a little bit actually more structured then, because they each did 5 dunks, and each of the 5 dunks had like a different competitive requirement that they had to do, whether it was like launch or approaching from down the baseline, or launching from as far away from the basket or whatever. That's how you got that free throw line dunk. And then there's some other ones. I don't remember what they were, but like it's the same format, same judging that we've used for almost 50 years, 2 years, a year and a half from now. And so I just wonder if there's like a different way to format the contest itself. I don't know.
Yeah, and
It
there's
keeps
also
me up at
something
night.
that Donovan said was it's more commonly to see contests just use like 7 through 10 now instead of using the
Yeah.
whole 1 through 10.
Hunter.
There's so many like
Just so you know, we got
Makes
3
no
minutes, Hunter.
sense. Makes no sense
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah, we have like contests that start out with every dunk being a 9 or 10, and then we get to the final round, and obviously those are starting to get to those 10 spots. But it's like a windmill and an underbolt off the backboard are not the same dunk and should not be a 9 and a 10. Like a windmill should not be a 9 and a underbolt off the backboard. Obviously, it should be a 10, but it should not be that close. And then some missed dunks are like sixes. Sometimes it's like I just think that even if we put it to 1 through 10, that'd be good. And then obviously misses, I think, should be zeros because you didn't even make the dunk. But but yeah, again, it's we have to find something that's gonna fit everything. Like that's why the WDA is obviously doing that type of stuff. But it's just it's getting more common to not use the whole 1 through 10 scaling system. So
I have so much I could say about dunk contest scoring, and I feel like that should be saved for another podcast. But I do want to know, Justin, what were we just looking at? Please explain that.
Man, so that's the NBA has shown individual judge footage like of the score since 2000. And so I have all that data up until 2020. I haven't actually captured it in the couple years since. But there have been 10 is the most common score awarded in the NBA slant. It is the mode. How is 10 the most common score awarded? Like,
It's entertainment.
well, yeah. And like, yeah. Right. And so like you guys talked on it. It's not a normal distribution. It's not even it's just 10, 9, 8, maybe some sevens, a few sixes for misses, a handful of fives. I did like that they added the decimal. I do feel like that works a little bit better. Like people are a little bit more judicious, but
Yeah.
it's
Gotta
not
Gotta love the 6 for the complete miss. Absolutely love
right,
that score.
right, yeah.
Yeah. Also, just so y'all know, not paying for Zoom Premium, so we got a minute left. So you want to restart it?
W Dylan.
Damn it, Dylan.
All right, we're back. So basically just talking about the scoring system and how basically only 1 through 10 is used. So I mean, we talked about it a bit last episode, how we'd kind of like to see some zeros thrown out for misses. And again, like windmills being like a 2 or something. I don't know. It depends, but yeah, just whatever you guys want to talk about it because it's definitely difficult.
Can you imagine trying to figure out from the average person to figuring out how do you score 1 through 10 a Doug Anderson East Bay versus a Piotrek Grabo behind the back over 2 people? How do you score 1 through 10? What is the difference? It's hard to do for all the judges that are up there. They don't know the difference between a windmill and a scorpion. So tough. And you know what? I'm gonna get into it. I have something. Why don't we just why don't we just go straight to the NBA? Why don't we just have this proposal and be like, hey, Chuck, Team Flight Brothers, we all know Chuck. Everybody knows Chuck. I think Donovan's pretty close with Chuck right now. Maybe. And just be like, all right, this is the proposal. Can you send it to the NBA?
No,
And
man,
see what
if you're gonna
happens.
do that, we should contact W or NBA arenas and we should just try to do halftime shows and put on the halftime show and then make that the dunk show and then show them, look, we ran an entire season of dunk contest in like 10 of your arenas. And we
So
had
great ideas won't be able to be executed.
yeah, the NBA is not having
is the problem. Well, because NBA halftime show is not long enough.
True.
The NBA dunk contest, way more about entertainment. They're not going to be able to deal with like, let's input this score real quick. Hold on. Let me like they're not going to be able to do the whole take 5 minutes to get a score for one dunk thing. I mean, they only give the dunk contest. I mean, I don't know what, I mean, they have like 30 guys in the 3-point contest and then only 4 guys in the NBA dunk contest. So the NBA dunk contest is only like, 30 minutes. So they're trying to cut as much time as possible, trying to make it as advertiser friendly as possible. And they really don't have room for like trying to advance the sport, basically.
Billy,
which
we can
sucks.
try. We can certainly try.
Yeah.
And you know what? We can get quicker with the scores. We will get quicker with the scores. We'll
Yeah,
have a
more
system in
commercial
place.
breaks.
Yo, CJ. Do
What we
you
got?
know how to work like computers or anything? We just need to get AI to do it.
Well, we did. We had Discord was able to do that. I don't know if it works anymore though.
We need an app, like a fully functioning, like integrated app, and that's maybe we get AI to build that. I don't know.
Nah, because imagine AI gives Finati a 6 again. That'd be crazy. That'd be wild. Couldn't have that.
What's
Yeah.
funny is that I've seen a 6 thrown out for that dunk twice. The same
really?
dunk contest I was just in last year, some kid did that dunk and he got a 6, and I was like, what? Like, how have I seen
I
this
think
twice now?
the most slept on dunk in dunk contests over my years of filming is a windmill elbow hang. I mean, generally any elbow hang, but especially like windmill elbow hang is like a pretty sick dunk, and it'll get 8s or like
You're just
like crowd will just be silent and
you
nothing
mostly
happens.
you're implying this is Chris Staples getting low scores for this dunk every time.
Chris Staples, Hanif,
Zach did that a lot.
yeah.
Jonesy did that dunk a lot. Yeah.
I'm grateful I don't do that dunk.
Yeah.
I really quick question. Dylan, do you know who Jonesy is?
I've heard his name. I'm sure I've watched his dunks
Oh,
because
man.
I've watched a lot of people's dunks, but I cannot remember off the top of my head.
Dylan, do you know who T-Dub is? I don't know.
I've dunked with him, bro. Come on now.
What about David Thacker?
I'm not sure.
I name
not
dropped
sure,
Thacker
yeah.
just like yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like the only person to have a dunk session with T-Dub in 5 years.
That's,
It's so random.
I'm the only
Put that
person
on your
who's
resume.
dunked on T-Dub.
Question.
White flight.
So how do we get rid of performance enhancing drugs in the world of dunking if we
Whoa,
want?
whoa. What'd you just say?
Get rid of
How do
them?
we get rid of?
How do
Implying
we
they're already
add
in?
them in?
We
I
have
didn't
to
know we had a
have
problem.
we need rules in place for that if we want to be in the Olympics.
Yeah.
So you mean they don't happen, not get rid of them. Okay, good. That was whoa.
He was talking to you, Donovan.
I know, yeah. What? No, this
He
is an
was
interesting
talking
distinction
to
that
Donnie.
you decided to make.
Yeah, I think we would just adopt the same rules that
Yeah.
any other organization uses, just like verbatim.
Is there
Yeah,
any
it's-
dunker
yeah.
that is on performance enhancing drugs
Yeah, what was that, CJ?
besides Nate Hobbs?
Yeah,
I
besi-
Oh,
yeah.
He's the
I
only one
don't-
I've seen.
Is he really?
I don't
Dude,
know if he
look at
actually
him.
is. He just looks
Look.
insane. I don't know if that's even possible.
Billy,
But
how
no, I
tall
don't
is
know
he?
for sure. It's like 6'3", isn't
Nate
it?
Hobbs.
Yeah.
I think he says he's 6 or 6'1".
Oh, really?
I think.
He's like
He's
weighs
crazy.
like gotta weigh like 210 plus, and his
Oh,
dude,
no,
his
he's
body
way
fat's
more. He's like
his
230,
body
bro.
fat's like 8% or less. It's pretty crazy. A little too crazy.
Exactly. Yeah, who knows? He could
Yeah,
be
just
really good
I
taking
like what
pictures.
Justin said though. Just like implement the same system because why wouldn't you? It doesn't.
It's the best part about practicing law. It's like it's good to plagiarize. If that thing has precedent, use it. Like,
Yeah, for sure.
it's
So I
not legal
know.
advice.
I think I watched CJ the video you did with Isaiah. I also watched the one you did kind of doing the China dunk contest. And I think one thing that I saw in the comments quite a bit was like, oh, nobody wants to pull out a spreadsheet and do all this stuff. So like, what would be you and Justin's response to that?
Justin, do you want to go first or should I?
Yeah, I can go. And so that's kind of what I had alluded to a minute ago by saying, we need to have an app. And so essentially what happens would be that you'd be able to just submit your dunks, maybe not like the day before, but like as the contest is, people are warming up, like you can go over and say, this is the list of dunks I'll probably do. You can always change them. We have to be able to give people flexibility, but as long as you can just say real quick, I'm doing this dunk, and we press a button and it feeds everything right into a system. Because it's not that it takes a long time to do. It does take a few seconds longer than we would want to, but and those seconds matter, especially in managing the program of an event. I think once you have a system that can do that, then it's just a matter of like, typing in the name of the dunk rather than having to select all the features, because that's what takes time. I think that's also part of the education process that we would want to have commentators doing, is explaining it's not just a windmill, it's a windmill and he's a 1 foot dunker, and the windmill is on the same side of the 1 foot, and kind of educating people in the process of thinking about dunking too. And so I think that goes back to what we were saying before about packaging, but having an app that could tie that all in together, give you a difficulty value, and then the judges know what dunk you're about to do, and you really shouldn't be changing that dunk, because then the judges are rating that dunk, and you shouldn't have to finalize and say, this is the dunk I'm doing until right before you go, but from there, that's your dunk. Like, you make it or you miss it. And that's why you should get some credit, I think, for missed dunks, but nothing really meaningful. But it has to kind of happen. It's like you fall off the beam in gymnastics. Those routines still get credit. Those teams are just a lot less likely to win at their meets. And so I think in dunking, we have to be a little bit forgiving of missing, but not so much that somebody who misses gets a 6 and somebody who makes it gets an 8. That's too close, right? Or a 40 and a 35 or whatever, or 36. That's too close.
I'd like to mention something as well.
Yeah, go on, Doug.
A lot of people, I know we mentioned already a couple times in this meeting that like it would help, and I'm not denying it definitely would help progress the sport of dunking if it's more understood by the general public, right? They understand what they're looking at. But also at the same time, I feel like I said, majority, that's incorrect, but quite a few sports in the Olympics, no one in the general public knows what they're looking at. I can tell you for a fact, at the Winter Games, I don't understand what I'm looking at on like half of them, but everyone still watches it. So we don't necessarily have to educate them, although it would definitely help. But yeah, you don't necessarily have to. Like, you don't have to go in great detail or depth.
Okay.
So
go ahead, Billy. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, so one thing that I've had thoughts about in the past, but now I'm coming up with new stuff as far as like the difficulties with, because I've always known that judging dunks is difficult. And I compare it to gymnastics because they have like probably the most similar like scoring system. And so Justin was talking about having a starting score for each dunk, and that's what gymnastics does. Like a triple axel has, a starting score of 9.5 or whatever it is, and then they get deducted for any sort of mishaps they have along the way. The problem with dunking is that between the legs for Doug Anderson, the difficulty is here, but for T-Dub, it's up here. And so you can't really have a starting score. And so it means like there's got to be more of a human aspect to the judging than there is for gymnastics. Otherwise, dunking is going to become a 6'5" and up sport, at least for the Olympics, because it's always going to favor the taller guys. Like if you have a difficulty, like a set difficulty sort of thing, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, I hear you.
Yeah, but that's where execution comes in. Sorry, TCJ.
That's exactly what I was gonna say.
I'll let you go.
Yeah, I will. I want to get into that a little bit, but yeah, you know what? I think we should take a look. I should on purpose have a 1v1 online contest with somebody that's really tall, like Jeffrey Furman, and then somebody short. I think that would be a good idea to see how things balance out with using the simple rating system to bridge that gap with heights. But yeah, there's two things. I'm going to revert back to what Dylan was asking with people in my comments about, well, nobody's going to bring out a computer for a contest and you're taking too long to judge the scores. Let me get into that really quick. One thing, yes, the Olympics with gymnastics, yeah, they have a set routine that the judges already know before it happens. So, for example, if the dunkers send us their routine, how many dunks, whatever dunks they're doing, we could do complexity super quickly. And then we'd only have to pay attention to, okay, did they change up their dunk? Then we'd have to do deductions. The other thing that can make this super, super quick, if we have 4 judges, right? One judge looks at flight, another one looks at style, the other one looks at finish, other one looks at complexity. The scores would be super fast because if I'm just looking at flight alone, I could accurately get a really good number for flight versus at dunk camp, we like at dunk camp, we go through 50 people in one day judging, and I have to do flight style, finish, and complexity and all in one. And that's why it takes me a little bit too long sometimes. And I'm babysitting like the pros because I mean their brains are at the show. So it's hard to like get everything to come together. But like I think if we split it up, I feel that would be a really good way to judge quickly and precisely. And then potentially have the dunkers send us their routine early on, and then complexity would be super fast. That's my take.
So
Yeah,
to go
that's
along
it.
with that, I'm always the cynical guy, so I apologize. Um,
Don't.
so if you have one judge for each different thing, the one thing that I would see might be an issue with that is that, so like in gymnastics, you might have 8 judges, so that like there's no possible way to cheat because you can, like, I can't remember if it's gymnastics or whatever, but they eliminate the lowest score and the highest score or something like that, and basically like they get, you know, the average of the other people. But so that's like 8 judges who are doing everything. But if you have 8 judges for jump height, 8 judges for for creativity or difficulty, 8 judges for power and stuff like that, like that might be a little daunting, but I
That's
don't
too
know.
deep. It's
Yeah,
way too deep. I
yeah.
think I think when you have one person trying to do flight style and finish all in one, I think it's going to be less accurate compared to just having judges separately viewing one thing. I think all of us can do a really good job if we were just fixating on one of those. I think we would all be able to judge really, really well. And I think it would be less accurate if there was 4 of us trying to do all of it at once. Donovan, how did you feel? You were a judge at last dunk camp. How did you feel as a judge?
I'm not gonna lie, it was kind of a lot. Because I feel like you got so focused on, I forget what the first one is. Is it flight? I think, right? Flight's the first one. You get so focused on that, then by the time you do the next one, it's like, oh crap, what was, I guess, and then you honestly just kind of overcompensate and you just give them a higher score anyway, because you're like, well, it was probably good. So
I'm sorry to everybody that's a camper that just heard that, but that
oh
is
yeah.
we sometimes at camp we get a little inaccurate. That's how it goes.
But I
That's the thing I
think,
was gonna.
yeah,
Oh, you can go, Justin.
I appreciate it. Just real quick, I think that yeah, like Billy alluded to, I think you definitely have to have more than one person evaluating each thing if you're going individually. But I also think that we could kind of think about style as more of like, you shouldn't have to think about style, I guess. But I'm like, you should be able to watch a dunk and be like, to me, that's a 5. And it's just like the way, like, I like that dunk a lot, even though I know that it's not the best. He or she didn't jump the highest. They didn't dunk the hardest. But I'm giving it a 5 for style because I think that I just like that style. Like, I don't know. You can think of dunks that you really like that may not be the best, the highest, or
T-Dub
the most
360
technical.
tomahawk.
Right, and he might even now, even T-Dub later in his career, when he's not jumping as high, it still looks crazy. Like like to me, that I think if we kind of hone some of the definitions of what we're looking at, and then maybe you have 2 people that do flight and style, and then 2 people that do finish and style, and then one person that does complexity or something like that, and then you don't have to be focused on one part, and you're still getting multiple people rating the same thing. So, and if everyone's rating style, then there's less likelihood of corruption. That's just my
Yeah,
initial
because
thought.
what I was thinking is like with that idea of like having one person do each is that from what I saw at dunk camp is that like even some of the judges would have to bring out the camp like somebody that recorded it just to go back and see, and obviously that takes more time. And then they're like, oh, now I can figure out this, but like it should just be if you're focused on one thing, you're only focused on that one thing, and you're just judging just on that. So it obviously helps in that way, just because you can get that one thing right away instead of looking for 3 to 4 or whatever it is, and trying to score every single one of those for one person. Um, so like that's why I really like that idea. But then also, obviously, I think having more than one person just doing one of those would also benefit, just because you can get more of an average. Because like somebody might think that the flight was a 5, and somebody might think it's a 3, and it just obviously, no matter what you're gonna do with judging, it's gonna be there's gonna be opinion based. Like some people are gonna like a scorpion more than an East Bay. But as long as we get those averages, then I think that's where it's really gonna actually help, instead of just like adding everything up. You get an average of what everybody says, because then that's going to be more of a like an average score, obviously. So I think it'd just be beneficial to do it that way. But again, it's going to be hard to really prioritize all that at once. So
It does suck because I think I've always thought that the best way, which wouldn't be possible in the Olympics, and it would, you know, it could result in biases and stuff like that. The best way to score a dunk contest is to have everybody do the dunks. You see everything, and then you score them after. So you can see, you can look and see, like, okay, this was definitely better than this was definitely better than this, and it was this much better, or it was this much better, and you assign the points based on, like, you already have all the knowledge. Because when you're in the moment and you see a dunk, like let's say it's a 1 to 5 flight scale or something like that. And let's say Dylan went first and you give him a 3 for flight, and then Hunter went next and he jumped a little bit higher. So you give him a 3.5 for height. And then Justin went next and he got a little bit higher. So you give him a 4 for height. But then Donovan jumped higher than one person, but was lower than the next person, but you have no way of putting him in between. And now you're stuck. You're like, okay, so I'm tying him with this person, but I can't put him below because he was actually higher than that person. But if you score after you have all the data, then you're going to be 100% accurate. This person was the highest, second highest, third highest, fourth highest, fifth highest. So if there was a way to judge everybody after you have all the information, I feel like that would be the best. I don't see that happening, but I think that would be the best way.
so you're saying to do that like by each round, that you score everybody for the first round and then score everybody after the second round, like doing it like that?
I mean, it would probably have to be that way. I mean, the best way to get the most accurate scores is to have everybody do all the dunks. And then you score them after the contest and you like rate them dunk by dunk. And you have everybody do all of their dunks, no eliminations, because we're trying to see who the best dunker is. So we want to see their whole arsenal. Because if you eliminate somebody after 2 dunks, like what does that mean? That means somebody had 2 better dunks than somebody else's 2 first round dunks. And then that encourages people to do their best dunks first instead of saving them for the end. And yeah, like
I think getting to the Olympic level, we're going to need to figure that out. Flight is a little bit tough to do, to be insanely accurate. And I think for the contests that we're doing now, it's okay. For contests that there's $100,000 on the line, that's a bit iffy. And if I was thinking of like what could we do, I remember I used to have a little device and I forget what it was called, but you attach it to your hip and then it was attached to the app on your phone and it would measure your vertical. It would tell you basically how high your hips are getting off the ground. If we were able to patent something like that that was actually accurate, then that would be pretty awesome. So again, if WDA, there was some billionaire out there who was like, all right, here's a lot of money, do what you got to do, then we would probably work on something like that. And then flight would be insanely accurate.
there's stuff like
Yeah.
that already that's been done. It's just it's like impossible to get a 100% accurate sort of thing because somebody jumps with their feet. Like if somebody has bigger feet, then their feet are going to leave the ground later than somebody who has smaller feet. And if somebody bends their legs or hinges their hips slightly more than somebody else, they're going to land before. And then obviously the rim is the main thing that's going to mess up everything because if you grab the rim. Yeah, if you like just measure the ascension, then
So then what if we had like, and we'll scale, we're gonna have to rescale everything, but what if flight was just 1 to 3? So that 3 means you jumped within 42 inches to 48 plus inches, and it was a little bit more easy in general. Would that work?
I mean, an inch is a lot in height. I mean, obviously we we talk about it a lot with rim heights. 3 inches is like gigantic.
And also the
Uh,
fact that we know that, like, for example, the difference between 40 and 43 isn't as great as the difference between 47 and 50. So it's a little hard to do.
True.
Yeah.
Justin,
Yeah,
Those
Dylan,
those
what's
are
some input you got to say?
that's tough. I don't even know, to be honest. I do like a lot what CJ said about like splitting it up by person. But yeah, I'd say flight is definitely the hardest one. I think style, like he said, is very easy. Power, you can generally tell right away. Like if the dunk is like really punched, pretty easy to tell. And then what's the other one again?
Those are the three: lifestyle, finish.
Oh, there's only three. I forgot about that.
Well,
Yeah,
the
I think that.
complexity, but that's not like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think flight is definitely gonna be the hardest, but I think those are all generally really good ideas. It's just kind of finalizing it is gonna be the hard part for sure.
so the other thing that's a possibility with this is that there can be an Olympic side of dunking and just a freestyle aspect of dunking, like a non-Olympics thing. So like the Olympics is going to favor certain types of things because you have to have a set of rules and a set score and all that stuff. But that doesn't mean that we can't have things outside of the Olympics that are a little less strict. Um, so like if our goal is just to get dunking into the Olympics, it's not going to be the ideal system, but it has to be a system. Uh, so in that regard, I like what the WDA scoring system is because if you have to have a standardized system of scoring, then that's what you have to do for the Olympics. And you could have separate stuff outside of dunking or outside of the Olympics. I mean, that's like more pure to the sport. And then the Olympics is just like the dressed up version.
Yeah, for sure. What would you guys
yes.
say for like less formal contests? Like for example, like the one I was just in. Like it was basically me versus a bunch of 6'8" dudes. They're like actually good at basketball. So it was like my best dunk off a lob is like their warm up, basically. So that's kind of why I went towards the double up side because I was like, well, I might as well put on a show. None of them can do this. Like I can do every dunk they do, but for them it's just like easy. And for me it's like takes all my effort basically. So what would you guys say for contests like that are just more like for fun shows kind of thing?
So my initial thought is that you would do the contest and whatever's there, whatever scoring they use, whoever wins, yeah, that's the way it is. Until there's like ways to kind of fund these some of the help some of the contests and like, or people actually want, or promoters actually want to have the more formal contests because that's what gets better competitors. Or it matters like the coaches or athletic directors at the high schools or colleges that set these contests up, they recognize that it's better for the student athletes that they represent to have a more formal contest. Until that can happen, I think you would just go to the contest. You would take a measurement of the rim using the standardized measure that everyone would agree on, that we've kind of all settled on how to do. And then maybe 3 of those, or the back of the rim and the front of the rim, or whatever it is. And then you would submit that, and that could be reviewed and like included in the history of the contest. Like, and then that way it could count towards like your career dunk percentages or statistics, or I don't. And then you would have like sets at some contests that are kind of like what Billy's saying, like the medaling contests, or like the champion series that are like the ones that have all the big promotional money and all the best guys and girls in the competition, and are used to determine like world championships or Olympic winners. And so then you would have your your informal competitions that just contribute to like your own statistics and stuff. So I mean, that was my initial thought, and it has always been initial thought about that for a while now.
Yeah, for sure. Because it's so informal though, would you stick to like the scoring system, or would you prefer it to be just kind of like the more like showy scoring system that more people are used to?
Yeah, I mean, whatever the contest used, and then when you submit it, like I would imagine a future where we have as a technical committee director, I'd have a bunch of interns. That's what they do, right? In the summer, they're people that like us, love the sport, and they just are watching a bunch of footage, rating. They're just putting their ratings in for whatever rating system we're used, and then that way, it's all cataloged what dunks were done that you did in that contest, how many attempts you took, how many misses or botched, like balks that you had where you just, threw a lob and had to bring it back, or how many misses you had, how many makes you had, how many attempts, all of those important data points, and then like what actual dunks you did, and just kind of compute how well you did them too, and put that information in, and
So
it's
like
all there.
so like we start to have like over time you have
Yeah.
stats for dunking.
Yes, man. Yeah, and then you separate out and you could even do shows that way too, I think, because I mean, sometimes people keep doing that dunk to hit it because the audience gets really engaged. They want to see you hit that 360 under both or whatever, and so you try it the third time and punch it and everyone goes crazy. And so you could even maybe have a system where it's just your live dunks can contribute to your stats, like, and I think that was part of the idea initially behind the WDA website as well. It'd be so awesome.
I wonder how in the future, with those really small random dunk contests that are out there, I wonder how can we get involved in those? They just show up randomly, it feels, and it's like you don't know about it unless you're a local. And how can the WDA be, a part of that? I feel like if the WDA is going to be a part of a contest, it's probably going to be something more on the bigger scale side. Because, well, money will be put into it, and then maybe one of us would be flown out to just to be a judge or something like that. Or there is some planning that's actually happening, because those contests, there's no planning happening. If there is planning happening, then we could easily intervene and be like, hey, let's
That's
do
what
this.
you call an unsanctioned dunk contest.
Yep.
The underground dunk contests.
Yeah, for sure.
But one question I had was if we want to get to the Olympic level, would we want to go more towards like a 3 miss or even a 5 miss like dunk contest, or do you want to do more time based where you have to get it in a certain time frame? Because like I know there's some contests that do more of like you get like a minute 30, and then there's contests obviously the more traditional are 3 misses and you're done. Like, what do you guys think would be better for like if we get into those higher level contests like that?
It's probably got to be a time limit because no offense to Jordan Kilgannon, but like watching the China contest, no, it's brilliant from his perspective, but he takes so long in between each jump. So like if he misses a dunk, he will like go up to the person like 3 different times, make sure they're in exactly the right spot. And so by the time, if Jordan takes 3 attempts on a dunk, that's like 8 minutes. And then the person who's going next has been just sitting down for 8 minutes doing absolutely nothing. And again, I'm not like shitting on Jordan. Like it's the smart thing to do when you're allowed to. But if you're having the Olympics, like it's probably got to be a time limit of like a
And
minute and a
also,
half or
not to
something like that.
mention, Hunter, I'm pretty sure every other Olympic sport that I've seen that has attempts is time based, right? Like gymnastics, skateboarding, like the floor routine, everything's time based, right? You don't like nothing's like try based, attempt based. Like skateboarding, right? There's a time limit you have to do a certain amount of everything's time based in the Olympics for attempt based things. So yeah, it would definitely be time.
And I think this is where we can get into like thinking about different formats. So if you imagine you have, one person on one end, one person on the other, or however if you're using a basketball court, however the court is set up. And so Jordan does his first attempt, he misses it. Whatever dunker is next is on the other end of the court. Their clock immediately starts and they do an attempt and say they make it. Then Jordan does his next attempt. Meanwhile, on the other end of the court, the next dunker is then ready to go, and so Jordan misses his second attempt. Sorry, Jordan. I know you do a lot of first attempt dunks and haven't lost in 8 years, but then the next person on the other end goes, and so you can kind of keep going back until Jordan either makes his dunk or misses the third attempt or fifth attempt. I personally think the third is the three strikes you're out sort of concept is familiar to folks.
So like a
Yeah.
1v1, but for dunking.
Well, it's not even that. It's like if you have 5 dunkers or 8 dunkers, however many are dunking, and Jordan's going on one end, and then on the other end somebody else goes, they make their dunk, then go back to Jordan, Jordan misses, then dunker B goes, Jordan goes again, dunker C goes.
The announcer's like, and Jordan's still on the other side of the court, hasn't made his dunk yet.
Right. And or you just keep going, like you keep alternating dunkers until you made all your, like if you have to do 3 dunks in the first round and you have 5 attempts to do 3 or 6, 8, 9 attempts to do 3 dunks, pardon my math, then everyone just keeps going back and forth. So there's always somebody else dunking. It's not like having to watch the same person miss setup, miss setup, miss setup would be
There's an option that I haven't thought of in a long time, but I brought it up like a couple of years ago with somebody. The other way to have dunking in the Olympics without fudging up judging is to make it a purely have it 3 categories. You have highest dunk, you have the farthest dunk, and you have the best dunk. So the best dunk is the only subjective one, but you just have a highest dunk contest, whoever dunks the highest hoop, whoever dunks from the farthest, and then whoever comes up with the best dunk. There's 3 different competitions, and that's how you get dunking in the Olympics. It's a much simpler format. It's just 3 things that people go for. Obviously, the taller people are going to go for the highest dunk type things. But yeah, that way you get 3 things
Would
of dunking in the Olympics, and there's no worrying about judging. It's just like factual who dunked on the highest hoop sort of
Would
thing.
that end up being like team based or just one person? Because like for
Just one
example,
person.
2-footer is generally going to dunk higher, but like 1-footer is
So
almost
they'd be more
100%
in the
of the time.
distance then. So you have a highest dunk and a farthest dunk, and then a best dunk.
Oh, so you're saying it's not combined? Like I wouldn't be competing in all
I mean,
3.
you can compete in multiple if you want to, just like in track. Like they have the
I see that,
100,
yeah.
they have the 400,
yeah.
and they have the relay or whatever. So like you can compete in all of them if you're good at all of them. But if not, then you just compete in what you're best at.
That's crazy. I didn't know you meant like it's 3 separate events. Oh
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, no, 3 separate.
I thought
Yeah.
you meant
gotta
like
be.
you just do all of them and see.
Yeah.
No, it's
No,
like
it's
objective
just-
dunking versus artistic dunking. Like you 2 objective forms of dunking and then the artistic, like
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
maybe then all around. I always thought
Yeah.
that the double up should be another event too. So you should have the best dunk, your best double up, and then your longest and your highest dunk. Because I think
Dude,
Billy, it
you
might
know
have been
who
that
would,
we talked
you know
about
who would
that.
kill the best double up?
Chen.
Man.
Chen's killing it. I don't understand how he can
How tall
boost
is he?
himself that far. He's like
I heard
5'9".
5'9". He does not look 5'9".
Chen
That's
dunks like
crazy.
he's like 6'6" and 18 years old. I don't know how he's 5'9", 39.
Must have
Makes
been
no
like
sense.
a translation problem or something.
Yeah, no,
makes
yeah,
sense to me.
surely.
Gotta be.
Should double ups be allowed in WDA contests at all?
They got to
You
be
see the way
separate.
you see the way CJ scores them? That was hilarious.
No, man, they got to be separate. Like if we're doing double up, everybody needs to do double. Like everybody that wants to compete in the double up event needs to do the double up. Like it's an important part of the history, and it's crowds really like it, but also they like other dunks too. And we shouldn't be comparing the double up to other dunks. Just do your best double up. Somebody wins the double up gold medal. That's badass. Also, if it's got like T-dub on it, that's
That's dope. Yeah.
that's the medal.
Every time we're at camp and I hear the pros talking about like, oh, we should just not do double ups anymore. Like, don't teach anyone double ups, stuff like that. And then we go to the show and they all do double ups.
Oh,
And
double ups are for show.
And everyone loves it. I'm like,
They are for show.
there's no
100%.
reason to get rid of this. But yes, I mean, it should definitely have rules. But they talk about it like it should just be like erased from history. Like everyone loves it.
It's too hard to judge.
Dark era.
Is the only problem.
But if you're
'Cause you-
judging double up versus double up, though, is what
No,
that's what
but it's impossible to know exactly how much of a boost somebody got
Oh yeah. Push off. No, put like get as high as you can. I think that is the other part of it. Like put like the vault up there. Like
So then it becomes the skill of the push becomes
Yeah, I
part
know.
of it.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
if,
no,
if
I
you're
know.
just better at pushing, then yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
No,
We
that's a
gotta-
bit
we gotta-
extreme. Sorry.
We got a minute left again. So yeah, we can kind
Well,
of finalize this, but
Yeah, I probably got to bounce anyway because my
Yeah.
girls are about to go to sleep. But
Yeah, I
all
did
right, sounds
too.
good. Yeah. I mean, I think we
Dan.
covered SRS pretty good. I think there's still a ton to talk about on complexity. So I mean, yeah, all everyone
Yeah.
do this again. Let me know for sure. There's
Happy
so
to-
much to
passing.
talk about. So
no passing, no extra points for passing.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
where
yeah,
I
we
that's
can
stop.
get into
I wanted to cover that, but we got
I'm generally with
time for
Billy
sure.
on that.
That's the next topic.
Next
Yeah,
topic for
I think
sure.
we could talk for a while on complexity
sure.
because I can give you guys the background on how we figure it out,
Yeah,
and how or
definitely.
roughly figure it out.
All right. Well, I don't want us to get cut off, so I'll just say thank you everyone for joining. Thanks everyone for watching. Make sure to stay tuned for part 3.
Yeah, thank you
See you
all
on
for
the next
having
one.
me.
Yeah,
Appreciate you all.
See
you
Good to see
guys.
everyone. Good night.